through the eyes of a traveler.
Hello world and welcome back. So in this video we're doing something very different, something I haven't done before. But I've been looking at the debate over Chinese bikes, and I understand that obviously if money isn't an issue, then one would obviously buy something that's either Japanese or European. But in some countries, Chinese bikes are the only option. Money-wise, it's cheaper, and availability, it's often there, whereas other bikes may not be available. So I thought, for a change, instead of me doing a very reputable company, either Japanese or European, I'd do a review of a Chinese bike. Now the bike I'm looking at and the one I'm riding is the one I'm going to review. It's a Tekken 250. Now the 250 would suggest it's 250cc, but it's actually 223cc. I don't know why they called it 250, but they did. But anyway, getting back to the bike, I'm going to ride this, and I'm going to ride this brutally. And I'm going to review this fairly brutally as well. So, without further ado, let's hit the road and let's hit it hard. I'm currently riding in Kashmir. Now, you have to understand that in Asia, it's not very difficult to find dirt tracks. It's not even difficult to find difficult dirt tracks. But this track, in particular, is damn hard. Right now, it's tough, but when we go further along, it's much tougher. And the only reason I picked this track is because it's close to my home. So I didn't have to go very far to get to it. And I think we're going to find out a lot about this bike as this bike moves up the track. Up and over. Here we go. In terms of the bike, this Tekken 250 is a dual sport bike. It's not an enduro bike by any stretch of the imagination. Both tires are the same size and quite thick, suggesting it wouldn't take the toughest of terrains. But I've taken this on some of the toughest of terrains, and it does well. I think it does well not because of the tires, but rather because of its weight. Sitting at 132 kilograms, it's not a difficult bike to manhandle if that's what's required because of the terrain. Like most dual sport bikes, it's got a pokey engine, lots of torque in the lower gears, but a top speed limited to, I'd say, probably 110, 115 kilometers an hour, close to 60-65 miles per hour, which, let's be honest, in these kind of tracks, that's something you're never going to achieve, because the tracks are just that damn tough. Up, up, here I come. Cost-wise, it's a fraction of the cost of a Japanese bike. In fact, this was acquired for around £2,250, or close to $3,000, and I think, yeah, €2,500. So in terms of price, for a brand new bike with panniers, it comes with panniers and a top box, it's a really good bike. Mechanically, the engine doesn't purr like a Japanese bike. The sound, you can tell, it's a little tinny. It's not as smooth in performance as a Japanese bike, but it gets you there. And that's the thing. For what you pay for, you get a lot for your money. I think in terms of tenure, in terms of it holding its own over a period of time, that I'm afraid the jury is still out on that judgment, because I think these bikes don't endure as long as Japanese bikes. But you get a lot of fun for a little amount of money. So that's the promise that a Chinese bike will offer. It's the value for money and looks. I haven't spoken about the aesthetic value that this bike offers, but it offers a great value in terms of how it looks. It looks fantastic, it looks beautiful. When you look at it, you kind of think it's actually a Japanese bike until you get very close to it and you realize that maybe it isn't a Japanese bike, but it looks pretty good. It's impressive, and I think on that front it probably looks actually better than a Japanese bike in that range, because the Chinese are doing everything in their power to try to make bikes that are competitive, and in the hope that one day they can compete with the Japanese and the European bike manufacturers, they're doing things at an alarming pace. Now, the difference between quality is obvious. The difference between mechanical quality is obvious. Aesthetically, I think sometimes the Chinese actually take pole position against the Japanese and the Europeans. They make bikes look really attractive. Now, some may argue it's because they're not following copyright laws and they just copy bikes. For whatever the reason, the legality of it, I don't know, but I know for a fact that they look good. And they look as good, if not better, than their Japanese and European competitors. In a short while, I'll stop and record and try to show you the area, the terrain. It's a beautiful area. It's certainly worth taking a look and sharing with you. And then we'll get back to the bike. This is a place where you can bring the toughest of bikes and it will get a run for its money. I come here regularly because there's never ever any traffic. It's like a little private road, a little secret that only I know, that I'm sharing with you for the first time. Sharing with anyone for the first time. But that's how you know if a Chinese bike can handle what is thrown at it, by taking it to the toughest of places. And this has probably tested me as a rider more than the bike, but it's certainly given the bike a good run for its money. And I'm happy to report the bike has fared very, very well. Anyway, I'll let you look at the views for a little while longer before I saddle the bike again. Hello friend, you look as tired as I feel. I'm sorry I'm disturbing your peace, just visiting. I know this is your turf, so I'll be on my way. Take care. Take care, folks. Bye-bye. It's fair to say the ride here is brutal, as you can see, no doubt. In terms of a review, and it is a general review rather than specific details to this bike or of this bike, you can safely say that Chinese bikes, for value, for money, are no doubt here to stay. If money is no object, then of course there are better bikes. The Japanese produce wonderful bikes and so do the Europeans. But if money is an object, is an issue, and often it is, then this bike is worth every dime, rupee, dollar or pound that you spend on it. And I've taken this through the roughest of terrains, with falls galore, through rain, through rivers, through everything. And I've tired, but this machine, this particular Chinese machine, just keeps going and going and going. So my conclusion, well, do your due diligence before you buy a Chinese bike, but know this, they're here to stay, and they are serious value for money. Take care, ride safe.